Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Raj Patel. So I'm the Acting Associate Director of PPE. Welcome to you all. So we've got a few postdocs here. So Giuseppe Danesi is a postdoc, and I think I see a few current PPE students. So Joseph, I know you are. Leah, I know you are. If there's any others, let me know. But we've got a few current PPE students. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview. I take it that most of the people who are here for information about PPE are freshmen or sophomores. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of information about the PPE department, which is an undergrad department at Penn. It's actually one of the largest majors that we have in the School of Arts and Sciences. I think we've got about 300, a little bit more than 300 undergrad students right now. Obviously, it's a very interdisciplinary course, right? So we take a lot from philosophy, politics, and economics, and a bit of psychology, especially behavioral related and behavioral sciences and the related sciences with respect to that. I just wanted to share my screen just to go over some of the classes that would be relevant for many of you, especially as juniors, as freshmen and juniors. So if you're thinking about doing a major in PPE, what you want to do, or what you want to try and do is try and get some of these PPE Common Foundation classes out the way. The PPE Common Foundation classes are 2 philosophy classes, 2 political science classes, 2 econ classes, and a psych class. So those are the kinds of classes you want to get out the way by at least your sophomore year. If you haven't done them by your sophomore year, you might have difficulty, or you will have difficulty finishing on time within the 4 years. So that's why we recommend that when you're thinking about taking PPE classes, what you want to do is try and take some of these classes. So the philosophy requirement is there's a hard requirement for the social contract. So that's Phil 008. That's a class you absolutely need to take. There's not much leeway or discretion about that. But then there is another philosophy foundation class that you can take in addition to that, which is one of these, or it could be more than just these, right? So the way that this typically works is every semester when you're looking at classes and you're interested in taking, say you were interested in taking a philosophy class that isn't listed as a pre-approved foundation course, you would email the associate director, who happens to be me right now, about whether those classes will be acceptable or not for your philosophy foundation courses. So you want to take 2 philosophy classes. You also want to take 2 political science classes. So these are the sorts of classes that you could take. One is political science theory. So those are classes that things like Intro to American Politics, Modern Political Thought, Contemporary Political Thought, and American Politics or American Political Thought. And then you want to take a more kind of social sciencey political science foundation course. And as you can see, those can be Intro to Data Science or Intro to Comparative Politics, et cetera, et cetera. You want to take 2 econ classes. So these tend to be econ 1 and econ 2. That's Intro to Micro and Intro to Macro. Some of you may have taken Intro to Micro and Macro as an AP course. If you've done that, you can waive out of econ 102 and take a more advanced econ class. So I've seen lots of students have done that before. And in that case, you can take pretty much any econ class. So I've seen people take econ of healthcare, political economy, etc., to cover those econ requirements. And then lastly, there's the Psych Foundation. So those are typically Psych 170, which is social psychology, or Psych 253, which is judgment and decisions. And note that some of these classes might require you to have Psych 001. They might have a prerequisite requirement, in which case you should think about that and try and take Psych 1 as soon as possible so you can take those higher level classes. If the Psych classes aren't being offered, we have some leeway and some discretion about what sorts of classes might count towards Psych. So some of the behavioral science classes like Intro to Brain and Behavior or Cognitive Neuroscience, those can also count towards your Psych Foundation. But it's worth, especially given where you're at right now as freshmen and as sophomores, it's worth thinking about, if you're interested in PPE, trying to take some of these classes, and you will get an overview of what PPE is really like, right? So like you'll take these kind of core classes in these disciplines and try and get an overview of what the PPE major is really like, and see if you're interested in taking them. And then after you've done those, here, I need to share another part of my screen now. One sec. After you've taken those One sec, sorry. Okay, so after you've taken the foundation requirements, so this is these are the other foundation requirements, which are 7 courses, like I said, 2 in philosophy, 2 in econ, 1 in psychology, and 2 in political science. Then what you want to do, what you have after that is the 3 core courses, which is PPE 311, PPE 312, and PPE 313, which is basically a class from each discipline. So PPE 311 is basically a game theory class. PPE 312 is a class on the public policy process. And PPE 313 is a behavioral economics class. Now, the motivation behind these classes is that they're very interdisciplinary at their core. So they're going to be a lot more interdisciplinary than the Common Core foundations. The foundational classes that you take beforehand. And so these are the 3 kind of hard requirements. Again, we don't have much leeway about this. So you absolutely just need to take PPE 311, 312, and 313. To cover that requirement. And then you have thematic concentration classes, which is the area of the major where you can really kind of shape it towards your given interests. So we have right now we've got 4 different kind of concentration courses or themes, sorry. One is choice and behavior, which tends to be classes that are about modeling and evaluating human behavior from a social scientific perspective. So if you're a choice and behavior thematic concentration, you'll tend to take more social science classes. Globalization is another thematic concentration, and this tends to be about international institutions. And as you can tell, you can probably take a wide variety of different sorts of classes for that. The sorts of classes people generally take are things like global justice, which is, kind of be more philosophy, international econ, international norms and governance, and so on and so on. So you can take poli-sci classes, public policy classes, etc., that will satisfy that particular requirement. Then we have public policy and governance, which is generally about domestic kind of public policy and governance. So those will tend to be more political science classes and urban studies classes, classes about who gets elected and why, media and politics, the normative issues surrounding, the social scientific and the normative issues surrounding political participation, and so on. And the last thematic concentration is distributive justice, which will tend to be, of course, more philosophy classes and the normative issues surrounding distributive justice. So once you get to this stage, which will generally be around your junior year, you will choose one of these. So you'll choose either choice and behavior or globalization or public policy and governance or distributive justice. And then you choose 5 classes that go into those slots. There are general rules about the sorts of classes you take. So we tend to prefer that you take more advanced classes. So the general rule of thumb is 300 level and above for these kinds of classes. But say that there was a class that was in the 200 level that fits quite well with your overall theme, you would have a conversation with me about that, and I will decide whether it would in fact slot into your thematic concentration classes or not. And then the last requirement from the PPE perspective is an advanced interdisciplinary course. These are called capstone courses. So I teach 2 capstone courses. In fact, I teach the first 2 on there. So I teach corruption and development and philosophy and public policy. These tend to be smaller classes, so about 15 to 25 people, 25 max people. They tend to be discussion based, and they tend to be surrounding the research of the person who's teaching them. I'm a philosopher by training, and I work on corruption, the normative issues surrounded by corruption. So that's why I teach a class on philosophy and public policy, which tends to be about how to evaluate different kinds of markets, like drug markets, adoption markets, etc. And the second class I teach is on corruption and development, which tends to be, again, about markets, but mostly about markets in the global South. So why is it that you need to pay a police officer to let you go when you get pulled over at a checkpoint in some parts of the world, and why isn't it the case in other parts of the world? That's the sort of questions that you might come across. Giuseppe, who is another postdoc, and I'm normally a postdoc, teaches another set of capstones. Giuseppe, I wonder if you could say anything about the capstones that you teach here.
Sure. So during the fall semester, I teach a class on organizations where we look at business firms from a variety of different perspectives. And we read from political scientists, as well as from economists and from philosophers and legal theorists. And in the spring, I'm going to be teaching a class on money, credit, and debt. Money is actually a perfect topic, I think, for PPE because it is an institution which has been studied by all three of these component disciplines: political science, philosophy, and economics.
Perfect. Thank you. Thanks, Giuseppe. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and we can just open it up to questions that any of you may have. And remember, you can ask questions to me as the associate director and as a postdoc and Giuseppe as a postdoc, but we also have current PPE students, Leah and Joseph. And I think I saw Shalva. Yeah, Shalva's here as well. And so they will also be happy to answer any questions you might have from the student's perspective. So go ahead. If anyone has any questions, just put your hands up so I can see, and then we can just take them in order. And maybe if we don't have any questions just yet, maybe we can. Okay, we do have one. Yeah, go ahead, Jennifer.
Hi, thank you for this. I'm interested in taking a class next semester on American foreign policy or international security, and I feel like those would apply most to the globalization theme, but I'm not sure, as they're 100 level classes, if that they would even be able to apply to the PPE major at all. So how could that work?
So those classes would generally be applied to the Political Science Foundation. So you can take American foreign policy, that would count towards your foundation. You're right in saying that usually 100 level classes, with some very minor exceptions, generally don't count towards your globalization theme, but they could count. Both of the classes you just mentioned probably could count towards your Political Science Foundation.
Great, thank you. And if they're not listed, could we email you just to make sure that they do count?
Thank you. That's the way to do it. Yeah, just email me and I'll get back to you about that.
Great, thank you.
Thanks. Go ahead, Izzy.
Hi, thank you so much. I actually have two questions. The first one is, when is it recommended to fill the 3 core courses by, like junior year, or is there a recommended year that you should finish those courses by?
Which courses, sorry?
Oh, the 3 core courses, like the PPE courses.
Yeah.
Should that be during junior year, or is it just whenever you can get it done, or just before you declare your thematic concentration?
So the 3 common courses are going to be reserved for PPE students. So that's going to be after you declare your major. You want to try and get them in junior year. However, sometimes it's difficult because some of the courses are only available. For example, 311 and 313 tend to only be available in the fall semester. So if you miss it in your junior year of your fall semester, you'll end up having to take it in your senior year. So it just depends, and those classes tend to be really highly sought after, but we generally will be able to get you in. If you say you missed it in your junior year, we'll be able to get you in by your senior year.
Okay, and my second question is regarding the thematic concentration. Are there resources at the PPE department that can help you figure out which concentration you might want to go into, especially if you're just so lost in terms of which one you want to pursue?
Yeah, so there are information, there's information leaflets and so on in the PPE department and on the PPE website that will give you some idea of what sorts of classes would count towards your thematic concentration. So that's one question you want to ask yourself, is something like, well, what am I really interested in from a PPE perspective? Is it evaluation of human behavior? That's going to be more of a choice in behavior concentration. Am I interested in the more normative aspects of distributive justice? And / am I more interested in philosophy classes in general? That's going to be a distributive justice concentration, and so on. So I would ask yourself questions like that after you've taken more classes. So once you take the foundation courses, say you're leaning towards philosophy, that's probably going to make you a distributive justice or globalization concentration. So I would, in addition to trying to figure out what classes are offered that slot into those different concentrations, I would also just see how you go with the foundation classes. So say you like social contract more than you liked your other political science classes or your econ classes, or say you like your econ classes, but you're really interested in the underlying distributive principles that decide what goes where, etc. So you might be more interested in distributive justice in that respect. But yeah, there are leaflets in the PPE department, so feel free to stop by. You can also set up a meeting with me one-on-one. So there's a link on the PPE website for my Calendly. So feel free to set up a meeting with me so we can discuss that further.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. I'm gonna butcher your name. I think it's Zhao. I'm not sure. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to butcher your name if that's not how you pronounce your name.
No problem, no problem. It's wrong. Yeah, it's a difficult name.
How do you pronounce it?
João.
Joe. Okay.
Right. Yeah. So I had two questions about one. My first question was about so as a transfer student, I have transfer credits for classes that count as foundation. So to know if they count as foundation classes, who should I talk to?
You should talk to me. So you should send me an email with, hopefully you have the syllabi for those classes, if not the course descriptions, and send me them and tell me where you think they fit. Or you set up a meeting with me and we can discuss it that way. So either via email or via meeting. Again, you can use the Calendly on the PPE website to set up a meeting with me, and then we'll decide where they go, if they go anywhere.
Okay. And my second question was about the philosophy foundations, the second class that we can take. Almost if for example, philosophy class about ancient philosophy or Greek philosophy, would they count as foundations or because they're not listed here?
Yeah, you generally can. There's a bit of leeway with respect to those. So generally they do. I accept them for the philosophy foundation courses. There's a bit of leeway and discretion over the second philosophy class. The first philosophy class, there's no leeway or discretion. So you just have to take social contract.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah. Go ahead, Crystal.
Hi, I just came here to see what PPE was about, and I guess I just wanted to know what kind of careers or work past PPE majors have done.
Yeah, sure. And maybe some of the PPE students, I don't know if you're applying for jobs right now, maybe you can talk about this as well. But generally speaking, PPE majors, they either go into grad school, so law school is a popular option. It kind of sets you up well for law school, especially because of the philosophy. Law schools care about two things, your GPA and your LSAT score. The philosophy part of PPE will help you with your LSAT score. Generally speaking, philosophers do quite well and math majors do quite well because the LSAT is basically a logic test. The other sorts of jobs that people go into are like the big four auditing companies. So things like investment and consulting, that sort of thing. And they go on to work at NGOs and so on. I don't know, Joseph, Leah, or Shalva, if you have any friends who you know who have gone on, or if you're in the applying stage right now, maybe you can shed some light on this question as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's a great question. You can think of really any job trajectory, and there's a PPE major there. So whether it's nonprofit work, academic research, psychology, marketing, venture capital, traditional finance, investment banking, law, consulting, really anything you can think of, public service, academia, there's a PPE student there. So opportunities are really infinite, which is a huge reason why I personally chose to pursue PPE. I know even within our undergraduate advisory board, we have a wide array of different professional trajectories represented. So definitely feel free to reach out to any of us individually as well.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and even for me, I am going to be pursuing law just because I love the legal field. However, one of my good friends who graduated a couple of years ago from the PPE program decided to go into nonprofit work in terms of equitable housing. And he feels that his economics background from PPE and philosophy background really helped prepare him for that job. And then obviously the politics side for the policy that he has to interact with. So again, as Shelva said, it really prepares you for literally any career trajectory that you're thinking of, even as something as different from a Penn norm of going into nonprofit work and helping with equitable housing.
yeah, just kind of reflecting the same sentiments. I think that you really can go into whatever you're interested in. As Dr. Patel was saying, it definitely helps you with preparing for law school and preparing for the LSAT if that's something you're interested in. I know a lot of people who graduated last year and are now working in like the finance realm. I personally am going to be working for a public defender, so I think that you can really go like either route. And yeah, as Shalva was saying, it's really nice for setting you up to be prepared for whatever you're interested in post-grad.
Yeah, thank you. I should also mention, so I didn't get my my degree from PPE at Penn. I did it in my PhD is in philosophy at Penn, but I'm a PPE guy, and I do a lot of work in the NGO sector. So I do a lot of my corruption work is with non-government organizations. So PPE as a discipline in general sets you up quite well for a wide variety of different occupations and professional pursuits. So it's worth kind of keeping that in mind as well. Go ahead, Isabella.
Hi, I'm Isabella. I'm a freshman and I'm still trying to figure things out. I was wondering if there are PPE students who actually do like double major, if that's like a possibility. Is there like enough time with the degree?
Well, I've seen, in my current role as an advisor, I've seen a few PPE majors who are double majoring. So for example, I met with someone the other day who was double majoring in political science. So he was more interested in the political science aspect of PPE and just took a lot more poli-sci classes. I wonder if Joseph, Leo, or Shalva have any experience with this particular question.
Yeah, I'm actually double majoring in PPE and criminology, and I think that it definitely is doable. It's helpful to kind of like plan out when you think you're going to take different classes earlier on, but I don't think it's something that you need to come into Penn knowing that you're going to double major. I definitely did not. I decided more towards the end of freshman year, and I think it's very doable. Just like make sure you meet with your advisors and kind of focus in both majors on taking classes that can kind of connect the two disciplines, especially if they're like related in any way. It can be helpful to take kind of common area classes and learn about both subject areas at once. But I definitely think that it's doable, especially if you kind of plan on the earlier side.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Great, thanks. Do we have any other questions? If not, I wonder if Joseph, Leo, or Shalva can maybe talk about some of the classes that you've enjoyed as part of your PPE major, or any classes like maybe the Common Foundations, or even if you have taken any capstones yet. But yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, I guess I can, jump in for a little bit. So my concentration is in public policy and governance. However, I wanted to dive even a little bit deeper into that about technology policy and internet law and the effects of that. So I took a really interesting class in the philosophy department called Algorithmic Fairness. And it was all about how algorithms can be perceived as fair or are they biased depending on user input. And I think just taking that class in and of itself kind of showed, again, the versatility of the PPE major, because I was able to take that class, put that into my concentration and connect that to the other, political and policy related classes that made sense for me. So that's just a little bit of my story and goes to show you that if you really have a very niche topic or passion that you like, you can pick one of those 4 themes and dive even deeper within that theme with your niche topic. And that's why I love PPE so much. It's definitely because of that.
I would say my favorite class that I've taken for PPE is one of the required classes, the social contract. I took it pretty early on before I was like certain that I was going to major in PPE, and it really helped me decide that I wanted to be a PPE major, because even though it is like very focused on philosophy, it really helps you kind of make connections between how philosophy really impacts so much in terms of like different subject areas. And I've used what I learned in that class in like the majority of the classes that I have taken since that time, just because so many people reference like these core philosophers and their beliefs. So I think that was a very like transformative class. I also really enjoyed the political science requirements. I'm also a public policy and governance concentration. So I really enjoyed both of the classes that I took for that, especially American political thought. Similarly, just really helped make the connections between all of the different subject areas that we learn about in PPE. And I've similarly used what I learned in that class in all of my future classes, just knowing like how the fabric of our country works and how it came to be and how like the philosophy that built it impacts us today.
Yeah, building on what Leah and Joseph spoke about, I am a choice and behavior concentration. So behavioral econ was definitely a great foundation for me for that concentration. And I definitely took a variety of behavioral econ and higher level psychology classes towards my concentration. So I found Professor Batia's class to be really helpful in trying to understand, why humans act the way they do. And how we can, view that through an economic lens was pretty fascinating to me.
Great, thank you. So yeah, that should just give you a bit of an overview of the major